So the theme, being fairly broad theme of the panel is disruption. So maybe one way to get us started is just if I'm curious to what extent, I mean, presumably you are okay with that label since you agreed to be on this panel. But to what extent do you guys actually think that disrupting an existing industry is something that's really part of like the mission statement and sort of the ethos of your company? Maybe we'll start with Wilson this time.
So we're a fairly old company, actually probably older than both those companies combined. We've been around for a little while. Video chat has mostly been viewed by Skype and other such companies around personalized one-to-one communication tools. And our company is much more in the rails of Google Hangout, as well as what Sean Parker and Sean Fanning tried to do with Airtime, where we're a social group video chat discovery environment where people meet and interact around topics, content, and common interests. And so instead of just being about one person you may know, we allow for thousands of people at any given time to interact with each other around topics or content through video chat. And we view that as much more being in line with what Twitter has done than competing with what Skype does.
From Shazam's perspective, yeah, back 12 years ago when Shazam was founded in 2000, it literally had never been done before. What's that song? Age-old question. People ask it all the time. They fight over dinners and social situations about what's that song. We built the technology to make that work. It was originally a phone call with the answer as a text message. And then thanks with the advent of mobile apps and mobile platforms, it's now 275 million people around the world use Shazam. And from that base and changing the music industry where we literally sell $300 million worth of digital goods because you have that inspirational moment where you hear a song, you tag it, you identify it, you go on to buy the track or the album. So from the music industry perspective, the labels love us, the artists and the management love us because we're selling music, we're driving awareness of new music and filling concert stadiums and selling merchandise essentially for the artists. So that's part of the fun of what we've been doing as we build a business around such an exciting space.
Fashion, just in US alone, is about a $350 billion a year business. 80 to 90% of it is women's fashion. And about 100% of it sits in a woman's closet. So if you think about it, every 3 years, our country, and all the women raise your hand, put $1 trillion worth of stuff in their closets, and it just sits there. Some of it makes its way to landfill, the other just sits there, and then goes to the garage, and then to the boxes, and then to the storage. So, and the challenge is that trying to sell anything or trying to transact anything is a pain. It's a royal pain, and it's not fun. And for women, fashion is hardly about money, it's mostly about love. And it's been sort of a big challenge on how do you create something around fashion. So when I saw mobile and I saw iPhone and sort of the visual camera, it became very easy to think how mobile could really start to disrupt fashion in a very strong way. And what we've done is really created a very simple tool by which women can buy and sell fashion straight from their phone. And the result is today, we have somewhere of the order of $3 million worth of fashion being uploaded into our platform every week. And that is just within a year of our launch. And it's something that individual women are doing across America and something that we all get very excited. So our mission is to really get every closet in America onto Poshmark.
Cool, so I think maybe what we can do now is we'll sort of dive, not too deeply since we don't have a lot of time, but go a little bit more into like what you guys are actually doing and some of maybe how the mechanics of the disruption, if you will. I expect I'm going to accidentally say that word a lot throughout this panel. So maybe we'll start with David, because I think a lot of people as consumers are going to be pretty familiar with Shazam. You talked about the idea that I think a lot of people. How many people here actually use Shazam to identify songs? Yeah, so fair amount of people use it. You talked about that it's sort of become this a fair nice source of income for the music industry as well. Do you think that there are other ways that the industry then that you're changing the industry? Is it just like they see it as it's cool, like an additional source of income? Or are there other ways that they start thinking about what's a Shazamable song, like, or other ways they should be thinking about the app?
Well, on the music side, they're pretty excited about just driving awareness of the track, the album, their concert tour, what have it. So whether it's doing promotions with Shazam and reaching our millions of fans in the U.S. every day that use Shazam to just get the word out, an exclusive album preview like we did with Train last summer. You could only hear the album a week before it went on sale just through Shazam. There are lots of fun things, meet and greets, flyaway concert contests that we do. The artists know that we have, tens of millions of music fans using Shazam every week, and so they want to work with us. And even we do brand tie-ups as well. So, it's no longer about selling the music. It's about the concert tours and the merchandise and building the brand and other types of contracts and brand deals for the artists. So we help them do that. On the TV side, it's even
You're
newer.
jumping ahead, but that's all right. I'll allow it.
Should I switch to
No,
that?
please. Yeah, go for it.
So, we discovered years ago that people were Shazamming television to identify music and shows, live events, and ads. And so we said, well, it's not that big of a leap to use Shazam with television to experience more, to get more information about the show itself, or to get more information about an ad itself. So literally 2 years ago, next month, we did our first pilot with a TV ad, and later that year, our first pilot with a couple of TV shows on NBC Universal's networks. And it worked. So we built an entire business in the last 18 months around making any television show on any channel Shazammable with a rich experience to get content and social features all in one place. But more importantly, we're disrupting the television advertising industry, where for decades they spend gobs of money on every major campaign. They know it works, but they have no idea which ad is resonating with which consumers on which television show or which channel. And it's never been clickable. It's never been an interactive ad. They hope you go online, they hope you walk into a store and actually remember the product and go buy it. Well, for the first time, we're making television advertisements clickable, Shazammable, where in a couple of seconds, you're in a mobile experience built for and with the brand. Whatever they're trying to accomplish, more information, special offers, getting you to the right retail location, or even shopping from your couch, we can do that now. And it only works because of the combination, what I like to describe as planetary alignment, ACR, audio content recognition technology that lets us know exactly what you're watching and when you're watching it. A massive user base of 85 million people in the US with Shazam on their phones that are using it. A great smooth experience. We're eliminating the friction and overcoming inertia, and it's absolutely working. And that's why we have 200 brands on board doing television ad campaigns with us, a sales force that's growing strong, and it's our major new revenue stream. So we could be a multi-billion-dollar company on music alone, but we're going to get there that much faster with television. We don't have to monetize the television experience. The advertisers are going to pay us when you at your option decide to Shazam an ad.
Can you say anything about, like, to what extent are people actually Shazamming an ad right now, and is there sort of like an educational process where you want to say, don't just think about Shazamming, music, think about, all this other kinds of content too?
Yeah, that's why you'll see they work calls to action into the lower third of the ads typically. Shazam for a free sample, Shazam the 12-12-12 concert, Shazam now to donate, for example, in the 12-12-12 concert last month. So for the time being, you've got to put the value proposition and the quick reminder on screen. 2 years from now, I look forward to the day where that's not necessary. And the same goes for programming. NBC Olympics promoted the fact that the entire Olympics were Shazam enabled on screen. Other folks, the US Open with IBM, promoted it on screen. So, we're getting the word out, and people are naturally doing it anyway to identify music. So when we answer that question and give them the music in the broadcast, which we build real time, we're listening to every television channel and building a playlist of what music is in the broadcast. We answer that question, and then there's a whole world of TV content or advertising content built around it. And that's our way of getting the word out as well.
Cool. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about Paltalk now. So Wilson, I know that we don't necessarily want to go into too much about your past employer, but you did sort of make the leap from Zynga to Paltalk relatively recently, from gaming into chat. So, can you talk a little bit about why just that was sort of an interesting move for you?
Sure. I did 12 years in gaming, 5 startups. We sold our company, OMG Pop, to Zynga. We were, developer of a game called Draw Something that was a pretty big hit globally. And that was a disrupting product, if you will, which is why we had such a great exit, because of its design and its virality, and its gameplay type and the sharing of content and social aspects of it. For me, Paltalk, what I found was really exciting about it was when I looked at, Skype, which is a bit of an old business, and I looked at Tango, which I think is a great business and a version of Skype, if you will, for mobile. What I didn't see out there, which again, Fanning and Parker tried to execute on, not so successfully yet, but was really social video group chat discovery and people interacting anywhere around the world in large scales around content and topics of interest. And then if you looked at, YY in Asia, they were already doing that. They were already bringing gaming, virtual currency, and social discovery and interaction between people. And so from my standpoint, I viewed emerging technologies and emerging market as a huge opportunity because of the barriers of communication in terms of traveling, owning a car, DSL lines, computers when it's in India or Africa or Latin America. And I view the opportunity as the fact that social discovery, right now we have about 10 million unique active users a month. I think we could be 100 million active users a month platform, and we're already a profitable company. For us, the innovation comes around changing the way people interact around games or topics of interest like politics or sports, and then working with companies that we can enable through different APIs to tie with that, whether it's game companies like Kabam or content companies like AOL and Huffington Post. A lot of people want and want to interact with other people in other environments around common topics like sports. And sports, politics, dating, and karaoke, for example, is a huge aspect of our business. People, want to stream themselves karaokeing, and then other people join to doing that, and then people buy each other items and gifts and currencies. And I think 35% of our revenues today come through virtual currency. So we've already changed the possibilities around how people spend when they invest around video chat versus what Skype does or even Tango. And for us, the idea is ultimately that you can break a lot of barriers of engagement through video chat. And though in the US we're very privileged and spoiled around all the means that we already have to interact with one another, like the luxury that I have to just fly over here and hang out with all you fine people. I mean, those are not reality for probably 4 or 5 billion people on Earth. And so Paltalk was a great opportunity in terms of its technology, which is patented and was very differentiated from Skype and Tango and the other one-to-one personal communication tools. But there was a global market opportunity when it came to tablet and mobile phones that wasn't tapped into. And so I looked at the size of the company and the potential of the market size and the differentiated technology and the barriers of friction where other companies have not broken in through yet. And I thought that this could be a billion-dollar business, either through partnerships or directly by building our own audience.
So I think, when it was announced that you were joining, one of the interesting things was just sort of that, at least maybe this probably reflects not that greatly on TechCrunch, but we were kind of like, oh, hey, there's this company that we haven't really written about, and it's profitable, has, a significant user base already. And again, this, I think, I guess this predates you, but I'm curious, if you have any thoughts on sort of how, what are some of the maybe some of the learnings that people could take from how Paltalk has built this sort of successful business while sort of being under the radar, at least from sort of a press perspective.
I think just like Shazam and other people, you have to have a really differentiated product that targets a particular audience that ultimately at its core has a real interest. We have a 61-minute session time of users, so you don't just have to spend a lot of time with people you know. You can spend a lot of time with people you don't know but have a lot of common interests with, and we do that all the time when we go to a stadium. People who go to religious gatherings and ultimately share common interests in things. And Twitter is a great example of that. LinkedIn is a great example of that. Clout is trying to bring that to the next level. And for us, like curating content, and status within, within communities, and developing and expanding, personalities, and this long tail content, which kind of reflects what YouTube was like a decade ago, where you just primarily had a lot of shit on YouTube. It's just a matter of fact, right? 10 years ago, nobody thought this would amount to anything because people would just post crap on it. But over time, the content, the technology, the features that they created per vertical, which is what we're trying to address, and then discovery and sociability really made it actually really great platforms with billions of people using it every month and viewing different kinds of content. And now you have this guy Sai, who's a fucking nobody, excuse my French, buying a $3 million condo in LA because he had a fun video that had over 1 billion views. And that's the power of discoverability and social virality around certain platforms and mediums, and I think that video chat and one-to-many video chat environments, just like Twitter was for Tahrir Square or Sandy in New York, can really be a catalyst to breaking barriers of discovery around content, personalities, and topics for people around the world.
And yeah, so let's move on to Poshmark for a little bit. So I guess the first question is that I like to ask anyone who's sort of doing a fashion startup is, when you decided to do something in that space, did you feel any pressure to sort of start dressing up a little bit more yourself? Because I mean, you look great. You look great.
Well, it's women's fashion, so yeah, I didn't start cross-dressing.
Good answer. Very good answer.
It's even though we are all about fashion, the fundamental thing, as I said, is it's really about removing the friction in which women can talk and connect with each other. And there's a few things that we did that were very different. One was we put 100% of the focus on mobile, which 2 years back, if you look at the platform, we have an entire e-commerce platform where you can buy, sell, pay, ship, discover everything on an iPhone. And that still, I think, remains somewhat unique in terms of not having anything. 97 to 98% of our users only use iPhone. They don't even know that we have a website that kind of partially is functional. The second thing is we bet on social. So we are probably the only e-commerce company that the main discovery engine is a social feed, more like a Facebook or Twitter, which required new tools to manage it. And then the third thing we did was we created a real-time virtual gathering of people. And this is synchronous, we call them posh parties, where women actually gather up. There's one going on right now. These parties are fashion parties where women are buying and selling in real time. And we started probably a year back where each party had maybe 50 or 60 items listed. And we used to do maybe 1 or 2 parties a week. Today we do 21 of these, and our evening parties, which are the biggest, get somewhere between 50 to 60,000 items listed in a single party. And so these things have really scaled. And it's a very new thing. If you think about it, for a woman to really figure out that you have to be here, for anybody to figure out at this time and share something and then connect and buy and sell, it's kind of a novel concept. It took us some time to sort of get it going. But it's something that people really want to do. And again, it's something that's facilitated by mobile, because you could be sitting in a restaurant, you could be out anywhere, and people can talk and communicate and use this sort of form. A couple of interesting stories that came out of it is one of our users says that our husband calls himself a Poshmark widower, because they could be in a restaurant and the party starts and he's lost his wife for 5 or 10 minutes on the phone. We have another woman in Sacramento who basically sends her husband and 3 kids to the gym, so when the party starts, she can focus and really shop. And the result is that besides sort of the e-commerce aspect, average woman in our app spends roughly about half an hour a day in the app and opens the app 7 to 8 times. And that really is fundamentally what it's all about. As we say, it's about love, it's about engagement, it's about connection. And then money sort of flows through it, through the system. And that really is the sequencing that is needed in order to make fashion viable, because it really is never about the money, it's always about love.
I think the commonality that all these companies have is not so much purely about the notion of disrupting for the sense of, are we taking away somebody else's business and P&L, more so, how are people evolving in how they use technology and how that facilitates their engagement with things they have passion for, from music to fashion, or just different kinds of topics or meaning of people. And I think that that's what makes the disruption take place, is that there's very stodgy companies out there who stop evolving and innovating, and that's what undermines most companies. And new companies have the predicament and the obligation to fill those gaps and to capitalize on the evolution of human nature and how we use technology every day. Apple is the premier company of such a thing, and we're kind of all following that foothold of it's about usability. I mean, in the old days, it was about your back end, your infrastructure, and today it's about usability, experience, and the emotional attachments you have to these technologies because of the relationship it gives you with other people or contents. And that's why we're addicted to them, and we use them so much. And I think that, that changes when it scales the industries we take people from or use people in. And so that's the disruptor, is not so much are we inherently trying to go after Skype's business or the music industry's business? No, but we're trying to meet market demands in relation to how, as a society and globally as people, we evolve through technology around content and other people.
And it's a good transition. I'll hold that thought for 1
Sure.
second. I think we're starting to get the signal because it's a pretty short panel. So I think I'm going to open it up to questions if people have. We probably have time for like 1 or 2. While you're thinking about your question, you can give us your follow-up thought
Yeah,
fairly
just-
quickly.
Just one really quick idea. So, sometimes it's a zero-sum game and there are losers, but other times you're disrupting an industry where you can actually make grow the pie. And on the television advertising side of things, it's $70 billion in the US. But if we can bring the performance marketing of digital marketing, online marketing with all this stats, if we can bring that to the television industry, I bet we can actually grow the amount of spend on television advertising, and our network partners and the broadcasters and everyone wins. So that's one of the things we're trying to do.
Cool. Do we have any questions in the audience? Anybody? All right. Well, then maybe I'll ask one more question to Manish, and they'll give us the hook. So, these guys have talked a little bit about, again, not necessarily being in conflict, more about sort of hopefully growing the pie. And I'm curious, what relationship does Poshmark have with the existing industry? Is that something you're trying to build?
So, I think one of the big things that we want to do is ultimately facilitate women discovering fashion. But there's a lot of sites that allow you to discover fashion, but to transact, you sort of have to go outside the platform. What we are trying to do is to really bring it all together so the discovery and the fulfillment and the transaction all happens there. Going back to the traditional industry, I think at the end, what you're really doing is exposing women to brands through other women, where they may not even sort of say, okay, I can really fit into this specific brand. And now by visualizing another person who's actually selling something, and then typically women will model their items and take photos, so the other woman can get inspired, and it really ultimately ends up growing the pot for each brand in the industry.
Mm-hmm. So then, rapid fire, if anyone has any thoughts, are there other industries that you think, that budding entrepreneur in the audience could be targeting for disruption right now?
Healthcare and education. Those are probably the two biggest, dodgiest, industries in the world.
Anyone else got a good, handy answer? All right, well, we'll end on that note. Thank you very much. Thanks to Paltalk, Shazam, and Poshmark.
Thank you.